Good evening. It's 5:31. The Building Committee. Call this meeting to order. Number two, it's review and discuss bond committee recommendations.
Thank you, Mr. Rosas. If we've got somebody back there that can put up the presentation here, I'm going to give just a quick rundown of what our community members who served on our bond committee are recommending to our board. Okay, so we met with the committee of 14. I think I see 2 back there this evening. Most of them were supposed to be here. We'll see if they trickle in or not. I don't know. But they met with us 3 times. They looked at the list that we had created with the board based on the renovation and new building projects that have been discussed for the last several months. Some of that committee took a field trip with us to go look at some of our sites and get firsthand knowledge on some of the areas we were discussing. And based on all the information, they are making a recommendation to this board to consider. There we go. Not sure why it went twice. Okay, so the overall recommendation from this committee of our community members was to call in November, for this board to consider to call in November a general obligation bond referendum in the amount of $40 million, as long as it does not increase our current tax rate. The 3 facilities that they are recommending to this board to be part of that $40 million bond project would be a performing arts center, an aquatic center, and a multipurpose indoor facility. We worked a little bit with RBC, our current financial advisor, and proposed financial advisor for this upcoming bond, should the board proceed, on how to structure $40 million. Initially, the value we were given was $33 million to maintain the 0.2 or so cents that we have on the INS side of our tax rate. But then we asked them to be a little more creative, and by breaking it out over 2 series, selling $30 million in 2019 and $10 million in 2020, and then if you look on this chart on the right-hand side there, under the debt services, you will see that in 2026, the amounts we would be paying on that particular bond, the $30 million and the $10 million, would go up from about 1.895 to 2,858,000. That's because at that point in time, we pay off another bond. And so by escalating some of the payments in 2026, without having to raise taxes, and still the board at that time would have some capability, if they wanted to pass a bond for additional projects, they would have some capability to do so. However, by structuring in this manner, we would have $40 million available in a called bond referendum to use for these 3 facilities without raising taxes. I'm sure I slaughtered that for Mr. Traylor. He'll give you better information, but I got the gist of it, I think. Okay, so a little more specifications on the 3 facilities that our committee is recommending to this board. The Performing Arts Center, they would love to see one that seats up to 1,800 people. Apparently, one that large, we're talking real money, however. And I don't think we have enough to build it, but if we cannot, this committee is recommending that we try to work with an architect to build one that might be able to be expanded. For example, in 2026, when the school board would have the opportunity for more bond proceeds without raising taxes, you might be able to add on, whether it was the balcony or onto the back of it, widen it, angle it out, so you can still see the stage. So that is the challenge that they're bringing. If we can't afford to build one that seats 1,800 people, see if we can build it so it's expandable. Unanimously, every community member who sat on this committee with us is recommending to this board that when, should the board go forward and the community pass it, that this facility be built adjacent to the expressway, right next there to Dr. Garza, out by the water tower, either on the existing land or on the new 20 acres that the district is purchasing. Plenty of room out there, very visible to anyone passing through. We'd have this nice, new, beautiful facility. 100% unanimous on the committee. That's where they would like to see it. There's also discussion with the irrigation that runs there next to the frontage road. If we can work with the water district, should this go forward, to allow for the ingress and egress directly from the frontage road, that would be favorable. So if this project goes forward, we will make every effort to make that possible. If it's not possible due to whatever may be there structurally, then we would just have to go around back behind Garza to access the property. Still doable, still not a problem. And they said use every penny that we can that we don't spend on the aquatic center and the indoor facility. Every dime that's left over, their recommendation is put it into this facility. Did I get that about right? I'm looking at my committee members. Was I pretty close on that? Thank you, ladies. Okay. The aquatic center. Recommendations from this committee is that we seek partnerships to help offset some of the maintenance and operation costs. Harlingen School District informed us they spend just under $700,000 a year in maintenance, operation, utilities, staffing, about $700,000 a year. So this committee is recommending to us that we try to seek partnerships. If the city of San Benito can pony up their portion in maintenance and operation fees, ongoing fees for that facility and staff it, then they would want us to make it available for the city to open up to our community. The suggestion was also made, if the city is unable to come up with the funds or be a partner, then maybe we look at Rio Hondo ISD. They might want to bring their kids over for swimming lessons, et cetera. This committee also recommended that we should include it in the curriculum. Harlingen and Brownsville both take their second graders over there for either 6 or 9 weeks, depending on the district, for swim classes to teach them how to swim. I mean, it's a safety issue. I think that made a lot of sense. So they encouraged us to include it in that. And there was more support from the community members for us to do that than there was being worried about having a swim team or not. So they feel like our kids could really benefit from that. Recommendations for the location. And committee 100% understands that's up to the board to decide. But they came up with 3 possibilities, and it was split. There was not any majority, really, by the time they talked it through. One recommendation is by the expressway, similar to where the Performing Arts Center would be, just on the other side of the water tower. So again, these 2 new facilities, as people drove through town, they would see them, easily accessible to the public. The second spot would be near the high school. There's a small lot for sale that comes out on Woolham over there, and if we were to put it there, that could become a parking lot, and it might help a little bit. 50 or 60 cars on Friday nights, they could park there and walk down to the stadium. So kind of 2 birds with 1 stone. Also, there it would be closer to our high school students, so if we did come up with a swim team, it'd be easy for them to make practice there. The third option would be out by VMA. We have plenty of room out there. We can build a whole new high school if you want. Plenty of room out there. The advantage would be we would not have to add any parking. There's a back parking lot that is rarely used, and it would be no problem if we hosted a meet. We'd have plenty of space in there. The buses could come in and out the back entrance, and we would save money on the parking. The cons to that really center around the location. It's not centrally located. If we were to partner with the city, it would be difficult possibly to have the community access it. And we lock down that campus, so we'd have to come up with some type of a plan if we wanted to open it up, et cetera. So 3 options that the committee wanted you to consider if we move forward with that. And finally, the multipurpose indoor facility. This one was simple. It made sense to the entire committee that if we go forward with this, that it is at the high school, right across the parking lot from where the field house currently sits, right there off the back end zone behind our scoreboard, easily accessible to all of our high school students. There was no, that decision or recommendation was unanimous. There was no dissension on the recommendation from that committee. Ladies, did I represent the our committee correctly? Did I get all that right? Okay, great. Oh, there's three of them here now. Great. All right, those are the recommendations for this board to consider. Are there any questions? Committee members are here. I'm sure they'd be happy to answer.
What is entailed on a multiple purpose besides football?
So it would have a turf room, and we'd want to ensure that it was wide enough so that it would accommodate our soccer practice, long enough so that it would accommodate for football, kicking game, passing game, soccer again. Baseball could use that, softball could use that, marching band could use that, inclement weather, and then put a weight room on the end. Ours is a little bit crowded. If we were to put a weight room on the end of it, then the current weight room could be converted into a locker room. We have growing numbers of kids participating in athletics at the high school. It's great, but it's created kind of a squeeze on locker room space. So we could convert the existing weight room into a locker room. But you could have above the weight room, you could have batting cages. Districts that have these, I mean, they get used, people think football, but they get used by all kinds of athletics and extracurricular throughout the day, especially when there's bad weather.
The aquatic swimming pool, we're talking about UIL competition swimming pool.
Yes, sir. We would look at building just the one pool. Some districts have gone with either water parks or 3 pools. We think for cost, we'd be looking at one that had the regulation length and depth necessary for us to have competitions with some minimal bleachers on the sides for spectators, dressing rooms at the end with a concession stand in the center.
That's it.
Hey, Doc, I got a quick question. So the parking lot with the woolen, if we go that route, is there gonna be any incurred cost in that area?
Yes, sir.
And how much, I mean, just an approximation, how much would that cost us from beginning to end? Thank you.
The Cameron County appraisal value on that is less than 50,000, which is, I mean, that's usually not exactly what market value is. So I would guess a little over that amount. Of course, if it becomes known that we're highly interested in it, that might push the selling price up a little bit. But market value, I mean, if the appraisal district has it at 43, 48, then, I mean, market value is probably around 60 or so. So yes, sir, it would incur a little bit extra cost.
So I guess my second question to that, or the backup question to that, is with the 40 million, and we want to go this route with all three projects going on at the same time, financially, we're gonna, if we go this route, and let's say this is a position that we want to go, or the direction the board wants to go in, will we be able to cover that cost?
Yes, sir, you would. It's just give and take. So if you build at VMA, you're going to save parking lot. You're not going to buy any land, and there's already paid parking. So I don't know what you save there in terms of paving a parking lot. Depends on how big you want to make it. But a couple of $100,000. If you don't spend it on parking, then you'd have that left over for the Performing Arts Center, for example. It just depends on what the board decides, which location is going to serve the needs the best for the school district. And then do you pay a little extra for a parking lot, and it takes out 10 seats from what you can put in a Performing Arts Center? It's just give and take.
You know, Doc, just a thought, you know, since the bullet point here says seek partnership with the city, we do have an existing pool that already has the infrastructure there, but it's just not adequate. Could that be a route that we could go and see if, you know, that's centralized? It was a very popular location several years ago. Could we potentially or possibly look at that route to see our partnership with the city, to see what we can do to work out? Maybe we can build the aquatic center there and just restructure the whole deal?
Yes, sir. Should the bond pass, we have money available. We could build it wherever the board would like to build it and could afford to do so. So yes, sir. If the direction of this board is to strike up that conversation with the city to determine if they would make that available to us, absolutely, that would be an option. I have no idea, and I'm not an expert. I don't know what shape that pool's in. If we'd save anything at the end of the day, I don't know.
I believe Mr. Lopez means that taking the land from the city and we take everything out and build our aquatic.
Yeah, what I'm talking,
We don't want to fix that
Yeah.
swimming pool. We want to take the whole land and tear it apart and restructure it, meaning the fact that it's in the middle of the city.
the point of the matter, yeah, yes, ma'am.
And
And
it's
what
got-
I'm saying there, it's a multipurpose parking lot where we don't have to add parking. Number one. Number two, that land was, or that piece of land was built for an aquatic center at one point or another. My thought process as a partnership with the city, and of course, you can negotiate in a lot of different ways, but if we can work with them to where we can build something already there, we would have to tear that down and build our own state-of-the-art facility, but the property, what I'm saying is the property's already there, and I don't want to get into details as far as what they're going to want to allow us to do or what they're not, but it just, out of dialogue and conversation, to see if maybe that's something that we can do. Just an option. Thank you.
And at the point of calling the bond, you're not locked in. You're simply saying, you're asking the public to approve that bond, so those funds are available to build the aquatic center. It doesn't lock you into a location, should the city not want to work with us or not be able, if that's not a workable site for the size of pool we're going to put in with the building, et cetera, you're not locked in. At this point, it's simply the funding for the facility, and then the board can hammer out where the best location is, and I will act on your behalf to do so.
Thank you, Doc.
Dr. Carmen,
Yes, ma'am?
on the aquatic center, says seek partnerships. You mean seek, or we're seeking for Rio Hondo, CISD to help us fund this
The
aquatic
maintenance.
center, or is it, they can take part?
So the recommendation was, one, that San Benito CISD would pay from the proceeds of the bond for the construction of the aquatic center. The recommendation from the committee was, if the city is unable to form a partnership with us to help defer some of the maintenance costs and the operational costs by making it available to the community, that we might want to look at another school district, and Rio Hondo was mentioned as one possibility.
Which then they would bring their kids over here. And during, like in school times, summer, after school, what we're talking.
Any of those are options. So if we were going to use it, for example, 7:30 to 1:30, we might allow Rio Hondo or another district to come over at 1:30 until 4:30 to bring their second graders over, or if they have a swim team, just so that we're not paying the full maintenance costs and not using it throughout the full day. None of this is set in stone. These are just recommendations, because it is a little bit costly to run a swimming pool. Yes, ma'am?
So it's an agenda item or move forward? Yes, agenda item, I guess. So we go to number 3. That's review and discuss for consideration and engagement of J. Ramirez Law Firm for bond counsel service and authority, authorizing the execution of an engagement letter related to thereto. I believe Mr. Torres and I talked about it. He's going to verify the cost and send us the actual cost in an email to us.
I'm in possession of the engagement letter, I'm just gonna verify the industry standard for the cost, I'm comfortable with the verbiage. And I guess number 4 kind of goes hand in hand. I'm in possession of the actual order calling the bond election, so it'll be on the agenda in conjunction with the last item. I just need to put in the amount for how much the board will be seeking the amount of the bond, which is, I guess, but I'm in possession of both, and I'll send them out to you guys tomorrow.
Okay. So number 4? 5, okay, review and discuss engagement letter between San Benito CISD and RBC Capital Markets.
Okay, so on this, we are making the recommendation to the board that we continue our relationship with the RBC Financial. They have been the financial advisor for the district I don't want to lie, Mr. Torres, it's been for a while. Do you know how long their partnership is with the school district roughly?
At least,
Bless you.
at least since our last refinancing of the bonds in 2016. At least until next year, at least since next year.
They're either one or two in terms of the amount of school bonds that are passed in the state of Texas, I think. I mean, they're very substantial, they're large, they're backed. I mean, they're gonna do things right for us.
Okay. Number 6. Agenda item 2. This agenda item 2?
Sorry, yes, sir, for number 5, yes, please.
Yes, okay. Number 6, I like to table this one, and I got some questions to the consultant. And I'm gonna have them written down and see if I can get with him and discuss. Okay?
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. Do you want me to go over any of this data in here first, or you just want to table it before we even discuss?
Table it for now. Okay, number 7, review and discuss security alarm systems for San Benito High School and Veterans Memorial Academy campus.
Okay, we have the quotes here to install the security system so that now all of our campuses will be covered by such a system. If you recall, this is part of moving our security and police force away from having to do building duty nights and weekends and putting them on the campuses when our kids and our employees are there. And so this is just needed to make sure that all of our buildings are secure with those security alarms.
It's an agenda item also? Okay. Number 8, committee concerns? Any? Number 9, meeting adjourned at 5:53.